Today we're going to be going over the drivetrain on my 350Z race car. So obviously this is a part of the car that I get the most questions about. How much power does it make? How much torque does it make? How did you come up with this? What are you running for that? And I love talking about this and I love working on this. And while I really enjoy working on the aero, this is probably my favorite part, like most people. I wanted to get as much naturally aspirated power as I could possibly get out of a VQ35DE without doing cams, because I really don't feel like putting $1,200 worth of cams in a motor that costs $1,200. So right now I'm running a custom carbon fiber ram duct, a custom carbon fiber airbox, a custom carbon fiber Z-tube, a 75mm throttle body off of a 2010 Altima, a custom carbon fiber plenum with an integrated 1/2-inch plenum spacer, the RevUp lower plenum, a motor dyno phenolic spacer in between the lower plenum and the lower intake runners to prevent heat soak of the lower plenum. Inside the airbox is a Spectre 5-inch cone filter. All of the intake tubing, including the elbow of the plenum, is 3.5 inches in diameter, with it gradually spreading out to the 5 inches of the airbox. In between the airbox and the Z-tube is a velocity stack that goes from the 5 inches down to the 3.5 inches. I had to customize that to get the exact size that I wanted. The lower plenum and the intake runners have been port matched to make sure as smooth a flow as possible. I've done some slight modifications to the lower plenum to just remove some excess material and to smooth out some casting flash. The inside of the plenum is painted white to prevent any heat in the plenum reflecting into the air. The outside is painted black so that any heat in the plenum reflects out into the engine bay and is then cooled by air moving through the engine bay. The nice thing about the carbon fiber parts is they're very light, they're very poor conductors of heat, and also I was able to run them exactly how I wanted to, so I could make the exact size and dimension that I wanted. The reason the plenum has that indentation in the middle is there's not a lot of airflow in that middle area. It all goes to the sides. So I've got that larger plenum neck to allow better and more even flow. I've also got that integrated 1/2-inch plenum spacer, which again is going to help get more even flow to all 6 cylinders. The RevUp lower plenum is better in the high RPMs, and because this engine has a raised redline from 6,600 to 7,200, and all the other breather mods work together to allow it to function better at high RPMs, so it's perfect for the RevUp lower plenum. Even still, I have more torque across the entire rev range than I would stock, so even with this setup working so well at high RPMs, I haven't given up anything at lower RPMs. For the exhaust side of things, I have a set of eBay headers, a set of eBay test pipes, and an eBay replica of the Nismo exhaust, a 2.25-inch Y pipe with longer primaries that comes into a 3-inch single exhaust pipe that goes all the way back. I did have to add a small muffler because Roblink told me my car was too loud. The engine and transmission are sitting on a custom set of polyurethane mounts, which is going to help hold the engine in place better and get more power to the wheels. Same thing for the differential. It is on polyurethane mounts, which is getting more power from the differential to the wheels. Speaking of the differential, I'm running the 3.7 geared differential out of a G35S as opposed to the original 3.3 ratio that came in this car, or a 3.5 ratio that would come in the manual transmission cars. To free up some more wheel horsepower, I have no power steering pump. I have no AC pump. The alternator pulley is made of aluminum. The crank pulley is an underdrive pulley, and it is also made out of aluminum, just to remove as much rotational mass as possible off the front of the engine. The car was tuned by SOHO Motorsports in Charlotte. It's making approximately 263 horsepower to the wheels, which with automatic transmission comes out to about 228 horsepower and 290 foot-pounds of torque. I'm gonna post up some graphs now, one of them showing the raw run at SOHO Motorsports and one of them comparing my wheel horsepower to the wheel horsepower of a stock DE. I had to adjust my numbers for if it was a manual transmission car, because most dyno results out there are for manual transmission cars. But as you can see, my car carries way more power up at the top. It's about 15 to 20 horsepower ahead all the way up until we start getting to the high RPMs. And then as the regular DE just nosedives, I just keep going. So as it sits, my engine has a better power band than a stock HR motor, which is a significantly better engine. Just for those that are curious, the engine does have 145,000 miles on it, so it is definitely a higher mileage motor. I'm not sure how many horsepower it's lost over the years from all those miles. Despite all the carbon fiber and other breather mods, it is technically a relatively tame motor. No cams, no pistons, not been stroked, still running stock injector, stock ignition coils, a stock ECU. For the future of this engine, what's probably going to happen is I want to get a salvage 350Z with the HR motor in it, take this engine out, put the HR in with the better transmission. It's probably going to make about 30 more horsepower than a stock DE. Then long tube headers, single 3.5-inch exhaust all the way back, some sort of custom plenum, probably be a mix of carbon fiber and aluminum, twin 70mm throttle bodies, and then twin 3-inch ram ducts coming in from the front bumper. Eventually I'd want to put some JWT cams in it with some stiffer valve springs because I'd want somewhere in the 8,000 to 8,500 RPM redline. I know you can go higher with them, but I want a reliable HR power plant with somewhere around 330 wheel, but I'm less concerned with the power number and more concerned with the higher redline because that's what I think is fun. Yeah, I could put an LS3 in it and make more power and more torque. I just don't find a 6,500 RPM redline very exciting. But for now, this is how the motor is going to sit. I'm just going to drive it exactly like this until this spins a bearing or throws a rod or has some sort of problem that I need to tear the motor down. This motor would get put into that salvage 350Z, cut everything off that Z and kind of turn it into a death cart. I'm sure someone's going to come in and tell me about how their motor made X amount of power with less parts or whatever, and that's great. I don't care. Different motor, different dyno, different day. It's fast, it's reliable, I have a lot of fun with it, and I can go out there and do lap after lap and have a wonderful time, so I am perfectly happy with how everything is set up. And as far as I am aware, I am the only VQ35DE in the world running a carbon fiber plenum. I know of 2 people who did it before me, but they are not running that setup anymore. So I'm the only person currently running a carbon plenum, which I think is pretty cool. So if you have any questions, drop them in the comments below, hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys next week.